most of the training.
Yes.
Read all of the training programs.
It was like my jeans too. My niece bought me those. I have a picture just like that with them,
Oh,
but I don't have the welcome on board, so I know they're not mine. They're not, yeah, they're not on Facebook or anything.
All week, looking at that Zoom thing, and when I said
Huh?
no, we're trying to figure out what they were going to do next.
That's a good picture.
hey Deb, how are you doing?
Don't know. You
Fine. How are you doing?
I'm just moving and grooving. Just
Well,
barely, but I'm good.
well, as long as you're grooving.
No, and
As long as I'm on it right, I'm good. He's got a shirt like the button. I have this button too. I think it's in my purse.
yeah,
Your shirt
yeah,
says to love like a pin.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those were everybody wore those when we were in those like protests and things for marriage equality,
Oh yeah.
and that way you could tell the UU people because they were wearing that terribly unfortunate color.
Well, mustard is one of my favorite spices. I call it mustard. Honey mustard is that because mustard is bright. Honey mustard is
You're right.
I'm sorry.
Mustard in that.
Get me talking, I won't shut up.
Okay, good. Well, stand meet me over there in a minute because I'm doing something. I just have to remember what. I'm going to turn the phone so it doesn't make noise. They gave me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't even know because last.
Oh, you stupid.
Well, they had a program last last Sunday, I think. Because I think that's when I was. No, that's when I was dealing with the other thing. Okay. Let's do that for now. I'll take care of that.
I think men invented the horses so that our parents, wives, whatever, could carry all the stuff they didn't carry. Wallets. They carry wallets, we carry bags. I think men invented that. So, because if I just try to carry my wallet, one of the kids say, "Yeah, you got any kids? You got any kids?" Yeah, that's it.
And when we go to Renaissance festivals, we go in guard and I carry a basket. Baskets are so much easier than
Oh,
purses.
yes.
All the
All
stuff's
right
right
there.
there.
Yeah. Boy, I bought my husband a new coffee pot for his birthday. He makes coffee pots, or the coffee's much better. Yeah. We haven't had one for over 20 years. Just not a little.
I've got friends who use their camping one and stick it on the burner.
Pretty sure that would be the order for me.
Yeah, they are very.
Check my email. Just to be sure.
What's this?
Well, that too, but particular about where they put their. So they decided they'd rather have an entire wood shop than a new coffee pot.
Ah, well, that makes sense.
Oh,
I'd rather
yeah.
have a wood shop too. I think it'd be, you know, but I still want my coffee. I don't drink coffee only when I come here, maybe a cup on Sunday.
Yeah.
With my husband.
Why am I digging around? Ah, yes, I remember because they'll pass that plate around. And
Yes.
this time I don't want to be going, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They do that every time.
Well, actually, this collection thing that they had sitting up here, it's out there. I didn't realize that it had been a fire extinguisher. That is awesome.
It is. I don't know who would have done that, but somebody who's been here longer than me can tell you so and so made that.
Yeah, it has his name and stuff, and then the mark or whatever on the back of it.
Oh,
So, yeah, I kind of miss it.
okay. Let's go do that other is
need to find
standing,
it.
yeah, standing about here, hand it that way to send it back out that way, and hand it that way, and sometimes you have to assist because passing can get complicated. We need to go back. And you girls know about
So I'll follow your lead.
I do. I just,
Well, thank you.
I like your ribbon.
oh, thanks.
That's neat. That's beautiful. I like your shirt. You're welcome.
Here's my order of service.
Okay, thank you.
Just run it with us. Yeah, they never know when you're supposed to visit.
Yeah.
But they're not having unexpected paper deliveries. Bring the bar stool up here. Put a bar stool.
Do you know what DRE stands for?
Pardon?
DRE, on a story for all ages after Aaron's name.
Oh,
I see that in some places here.
oh, that may director of religious education.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
that's what I would say. Good morning. How are you?
Programs?
That's it. And I don't know where you are.
Yeah. Janet, was it Janet that had one?
Oh, she's out there.
I think so.
Is she there?
I know. I started.
Oh my. Make sure we are streaming.
So where are they? Deb has them, I think. Yep, they're right here with me. Is that Deb's note?
Yeah.
Or
No,
Deb's sweater?
yeah.
No, where is she? Where is she?
Maybe they only made 3.
No, they
Just for
one
special
back.
people.
They're just for- I'll find them.
She will make one especially for you, I bet.
Oh, it's cold under here under the packing calendar.
I'm sure Kathy gets appropriate.
No,
Coming right here. Blast the cold air. Kathy. Oh.
I was wandering around helping other people.
Ah.
well,
I was wandering around running my mouth. But I did learn something very important. It's IKEA, not IKEA.
Oh.
IKEA. A Swedish lady told David Schaeffer, we're going with the Swedish pronunciation. From now on, you can write anybody, it'll be fun.
yeah.
Correct it every time. No, that's IKEA. Swedish. What's
Oh,
wrong with you?
I heard that it's like cold blast the river. I've never noticed that before. You have to sit way over here. You can't feel that?
No,
I came last week.
Do you actually do the lessons sometimes? And do you get hired? Is it crazy?
No, we had some conflict.
Probably 86.
Hi, Nancy.
I'm used to 86.
The dog had to go potty at the last.
Oh, yeah. Guard dogs.
They're like kids, you know.
Yeah.
You have to go to the bathroom? No, no, no. Yes, yes.
I found these keys in the office.
Yeah.
There's a note. Keys found in parking lot west on this date near the handicap ramp.
Okay.
So I thought that could be an announcement.
All right.
Hold it up.
Do you have any birthdays or anniversaries in it?
I didn't ask for any. I figured, that you're going to do the announcements, correct?
Yeah. Can you give me the badge right here?
Oh, I need to get mine too. I'll be right back.
In the weeds. In the weeds. Just love it.
Yes.
You guys spend hours picking out weeds and hours. Like, checking on things in the weeds are real bad.
When you pull them,
Again, but
that's it. But there's a hole there, and so they
some of the bee finds it, yeah. They're really big ones to grow.
yes.
I added another announcement here.
Yeah.
If you can deliver it or I can, whatever. Reverend Peter Lucky
Yeah.
next Sunday, and
That's his theme topic.
yeah, let your light shine. And
Kathy.
Kathy Callan is coordinating that.
Do you talk about that, or do you want me to just do that
Uh,
too?
Yeah, well, I can do that, or you can. Doesn't matter. You can if you want. Well, while you're doing it, just now's the time for our offering to cue people.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Alrighty. Sounds good. I'm gonna get a cup of water.
Yeah.
Sometimes I start coughing.
Yeah.
Oh, Addie, come over here with the kids. Deal with the kids.
Good morning. Hello. I see by my watch it's 10:31. Let's go ahead and get started. We welcome all people this morning. All are welcome here today. Please make yourselves comfortable and extinguish your devices. No one wants to be that guy, especially me. Do you all have a program this morning? Anyone have a program? My question has to do with the program committee is currently wrestling with paper programs versus online electronic copies of programs. And of course, we don't want to waste paper. Just a quick poll as to how many would prefer to have a paper copy. Raise your hand, please. I'll count of 4. And how many would, 5, I think. How many would like to have an electronic copy? Dennis is either way. Five or six, I think. Thank you. And our opening hymn is Shine on Me, and it's led by Melanie DeMore. And she sings this song in her own 3-part harmony. And the video is used with permission from the UUA without a donation requested. And Jake will begin showing us that video.
Hello, UU family. I'm going to sing a song with you called Shine on Me. It's an amazing spiritual that anybody can sing. And in these days when the things that we're dealing with, the feeling separate and all of that, and things seem so hard, this is one of those songs that you just throw your head back, put it in your medicine kit. All you have to do is ask. And here's how it goes. Shine on me, oh shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh shine on me, yes shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, lift me up, yes, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, hold me close, yes, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close, yes, hold me close, oh, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse, please, hold me close. Oh, shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh, shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. All you have to do is just ask. The light is always there. Always. Always. Love you.
Sliding. This today's quote comes from our words by William Ellery Channing, and this was found on the worship website at uua.org. Channing was a Unitarian preacher in the United States in the early 19th century. He was born on April 7th, 1780, and died October 2nd, 1842. When I looked him up, it was a very interesting read on Wikipedia about him. He had a lot of input on the Unitarian. Also in Transcendentalism. He dabbed in that way back in the early times. So if you're interested, please look him up and read more about him. So today's reading. Each of us has a character all our own, to be what no other can exactly be, and do what no other can exactly do. It's not good for people with arthritis. At this time, we have a story for all ages, and our Director of Religious Education, Aaron Hornstein, will conduct that.
The fourth time?
Fourth time, sorry, it's German. I should know that with my name.
Good morning. I invite all children of all ages to come up and join if you'd like to see better. And the pictures will also be up on the screen. Our story for all ages this morning is We Are All Connected. And this is how the story goes. We all live on one blue dot spinning in space. We are all a part of one human race. We have hopes and dreams and love in our hearts. We are stronger together than we are apart. So why all the fuss to compete and compare when it feels so much better to connect and to share? That's right, it's up there. We can share when we're sad or down in the dumps. We can share our joys, give high fives or fist bumps. When we're seen and heard, trust blooms and grows. We are all connected. Kindness ripples and flows. Let's speak up for others. Include and embrace. We all make mistakes. We can give others grace. We have more in common than we may believe. We are all connected. We all love. We all grieve. We can celebrate differences, lend a hand, learn from each other, take a stand. We are all connected. Let's raise our voices. We can work together to make brave choices. Protect the water, care for the land, respect all beings. The earth is grand. Nature gives her bounty. She is gentle yet mighty. Stand in awe of her force, preserve her beauty. Let's look under rocks and explore vast skies. honor the mountains, and chase butterflies. Let's go hunting for rainbows. Plant more trees. Grow a garden and be friends with bees. The earth is our home and needs our care. We all play a part. We breathe the same air. We belong to the earth. It is not ours. We are all connected. We are made of stars. We are all connected. Take care of each other. Take care of the earth. We are all here together. And now, if Estella could take the lantern and lead us out. Thank you.
Let us sing the kids on their way. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Next we have announcements, joys and concerns, birthdays, etc., anniversaries. I don't have a list of any anniversaries, so are there people in the congregation celebrating an anniversary today? No? How about July birthdays? That got a birthday here?
Mine's on the 11th.
Pardon me?
My birthday's on the 11th.
July 11th?
Mine too.
Well, good. Happy birthday. Glad to hear that. Walt, do you have a birthday today?
14th.
The 14th? Happy birthday to you. Good.
My granddaughter Amaya turned 17 yesterday, and my other granddaughter Morgan will turn 20 the 18th.
Okay, so Jana has a couple of granddaughters that are having birthdays in July. Good to hear it, Jake. Jake had a birthday. Who else?
Got one.
Somebody.
Our oldest son Carl turns 44 on the 20th.
Okay, oldest son Carl turns 44 on the 20th. Good to hear. Okay, I do have an announcement. Next Sunday, we have Reverend Peter, I want to say Lucky, here. And his sermon is entitled, Let Your Light Shine. Kathy Collin will be leading that next Sunday. At this time, do we have joys and concerns that people would like to share? Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. Jana has an announcement.
Thank you.
Oh.
Excuse me. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to be passing around a sign-up sheet for folks that would like to be greeters and ushers the end of all of July and then all of August. So if you want to sign up, and if you want to but don't know exactly how to do these activities, just see Deb or myself afterwards, and we can help you through it. So.
Thank you, Jana.
July the 18th to the 27th, Shawnee County, Topeka Crisis Intervention Team Training. We're going to have 23 students, police officers, correction workers, social workers.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Frank Potter, a chartered member of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Dubuque. 2 weeks ago, I dropped my wife off in Denver for a League of Women Voters convention, and I spent the other week fishing, so I'm on my way back. Wow. We are also, I understand you're completely a fellowship. We are too, since '84. We've nearly always had a minister once a month, though. So we have a lot in common. I'm really jealous to see your children go to the rear, because that's one of our problems. We have very few kids, as so many fellowships have. But anyway, I look forward to chat with you afterwards.
Welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you. Any other announcements? I guess.
Okay. I'm just going to remind everybody, I hope nobody in this room needs reminded, but July 12th is the deadline to register to vote for the August 2nd primary. Just wanted to remind, if anyone needs to double check their registration, you've moved, you're not sure, you don't know where your polling place is, holler at me, I'll help you look it up.
Thank you. Bobby, were you going to be sending out information about what might be happening in terms of the Vote No group? Would you like to speak to that real quick?
There are marches and rallies going on a couple times a week. Tomorrow I'm supposed to get a hold of the head of reproductive justice. So be watching emails and Facebook. We will be posting information as she funnels it to us.
Thank you, Bobby.
I wanted to tag on to that. I had an interesting conversation with a refrigerator repairman. He read my refrigerator at its last rites. He wanted to know what the no was no to, because he could read the no, but he didn't know which was no and which was yes. And we had a lovely conversation, which is novel.
Thank you, Deb. Joys and concerns. If you have a joy or a concern you'd like to share, please come up to the microphone so the people on YouTube can also hear. Any joys or concerns this time? Yes, Bobby.
Most of you may know, but starting July 1st, I became your president. And I want you to know I intend to be here most Sundays, and if you have concerns, I want to hear from you.
Hey, Bobby, you want to introduce our new members?
What?
You want to introduce our new board members?
Are they all here?
Some of them are.
Well, Raymond Powers is one of our new board members.
Yay.
And Susanna Emilio. And Adele Racker she was a board member, but she was fulfilling someone else's term. Now she's a member in her own right. We also have here present Jana Koch, who is a board member. And of course, Carolyn is a board member, and our secretary is Becky Duncan. I think we have an excellent board for this coming year, and we intend to be in there working for the fellowship.
Good. We had a nice turnout for our Peace Corner on Saturday, and when Bob Lucero usually sends out a notice about the Peace Corner, and we hold our signs. Mine says "United We Stand," like that, and there are a couple of peace banners that are flown, and people we're just there for an hour, and on the corner of 10th and Gage. We get a lot of responses from cars and such, but it's a real positive event, and it usually falls about once a month. So if you just kind of keep your eyes open for when Bill sends out that notice, if you could come join us, we'd be really appreciative. So, thank you. Seeing no more joys or concerns, and I'm sure we have plenty of them in our hearts, especially concerns, we'll now take the offering. And if you're a visitor We don't expect you to participate in that. You just sit back and enjoy it and enjoy coffee and gathering afterwards. We sing a song from You I Receive, and I'm really terrible at singing, so if somebody's brave enough to begin that, I'll chime in, but from afar. From you I receive
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. One other quick thing is a note was left in the office with 2 keys attached to it. The note says, keys found in parking lot west, June 27th. Is that last week? Near the handicap ramp. And they look like, rather than car keys or house keys, they look like maybe padlock keys. So we'll put them back in the office desk. So about today's program, as is often the case, we live in a time of contrasts. I reflect on the movie title, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The ugly seems unescapable. The January 6th committee is peeling away the layers of our former president. The United States Supreme Court is wreaking havoc, dealing hardship to the women in this country, to their families, especially to the poor people among us. Ukraine, shootings. I could go on, but I won't because it's very upsetting. As John Prine said in his song, Hello in There, all the news just repeats itself like some forgotten dream that we've all seen. The good? Well, the good seems to be what we make of it, as it always has been. Tomorrow, July 4th, 2022, the birthday of our country, our home, a place where many would love to live their lives. Happy birthday, America. Happy 246. Please note, in Topeka, tomorrow there are going to be several 4th of July parades and celebrations. We also have a new Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Most of all, we have each other. We have deep connections. We have joy as we're able to find it, in addition to our numerous freedoms. Life is how we react to it. I like the last few lines of the Desiderata by Max Ehrmann. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. We are happy to show you the video titled Mirth and Dignity, made possible by 2 women of the UU Hysterical Society. Kathy Callan first clued me into the UUHS Facebook, and for that I'm grateful. Gratitude is also extended to Jean Ryan and to Sylvia Cresswell, who sent me the video link. The UU Historical Society is brought to us by UU Canadians. The video to me is about mirth, dignity, joy, and connection. I found it to be uplifting to my spirit. Following the 17-minute video and the closing song, Blue Boat Home, we will have coffee and conversation so that we may deepen our connections here at UUFT. The video is used with permission by the UUHS. A follow-up donation will be made to that organization. And without further ado, Jake will cue that video for us.
I still vividly remember being a newcomer at my home congregation. I remember the way the stained glass cast a golden light across the floor and the plants climbing up the walls, and I remember how much the people were a part of the church. There was this time at the beginning where anyone could go up and talk about something meaningful in their lives. This was supposed to be a time for telling about births and deaths and new jobs and stuff, but sometimes it was like your kid telling you they just discovered that their cat likes pancakes, or someone's poem about the ongoing saga of their furnace repair. One time it was Eleanor telling us that we needed to vote this week, and she won't tell us who to vote with. She knows that's not allowed. But certain people are more in sync with our principles than others, and if we don't know what she means, we should come talk to her at coffee hour. After the sermon, there's always this response time where the service leader would say, "We know that among us the truth is not spoken until many voices are heard," and then the people would get up and they would share what's in their hearts, which was supposed to be related to the service, but was sometimes more details about the ongoing furnace repair. And this was where you really got to know people from what they shared. And I couldn't muster up the courage to speak myself, but I carefully took notes on who all these people were and what I might talk to them about later in my quest to turn them into my friends and find my place in this new community. On Sunday, one of the talks one week was about feminism and female empowerment. "It's hard to empower women," said one congregant, frustration making his voice short, "when they won't show up. I try to get women onto the boards I serve on, and they turn me down." And 2 rows away from me, a woman made a little gasp and put up her hand for the microphone. "Sometimes," the woman said when it was her turn, "it's hard to show up in exactly the way you are supposed to. Sometimes as women, it's all we can do to keep the house running and the kids okay and to take care of the extra things that we're somehow expected to be responsible for just because we're women." And her words started to sound funny, like they were holding on to the inside of her for dear life and refusing to come out. And at the same time, they seemed to be tumbling one over the other all over the room. And she talked about life as a single mom, on welfare, and the struggle to fit into systems not designed with people like her in mind. Tears poured unselfconsciously down her cheeks as she talked. I was so enraptured with the story she was painting that I didn't even realize that the room was tightening slightly. Faces began to look the way that muscle between your shoulder blades feels after a long day of work, like they were holding something heavy. After church, I invited her over for lunch, not because of what she said exactly, mostly because somewhere nestled in her torrent of emotion was the tiny kernel of the fact that her kids were 9 and 11, which was about the same age as my kids, and epic friendships are built out of having kids the same age. Months later, she told me she couldn't believe I would offer that right after her entirely inappropriate meltdown in the middle of the service. I was confused. I didn't know you weren't supposed to melt down in the service. I thought that was what spiritual homes were for. The broken stuff, the hard stuff. Not a place to dump it for others to carry, but a place to share from the heart. They had said, "We know among us the truth is not spoken until many voices are heard." That means many voices. Gasping and singing and sobbing and giggling, all the voices, even the untidy ones. I have always fought for the place of hysteria in our faith.
In case you haven't guessed yet, the meltdown woman was me, and that lunch was the start of a beautiful friendship, one that has supported, challenged, sustained, and definitely inspired both of us over the past 2 decades. But let's go back to the meltdown. What I remember about that day was the uncomfortable feeling that my gender was being characterized as not showing up or not pulling its weight, when it seemed that all I did was show up and pull weight. I was raising kids, preparing to go back to school, cutting hair in my kitchen to make ends meet, and not long after that event would become the church treasurer. What I didn't have was money. Money for childcare, money to get better deals by buying in bulk, money to purchase or operate a car. So everything I did was funded by the currency of time. And a wealthy man was telling the congregation, that women weren't showing up to accept his invitations. My mother's life mission had been peace at any cost. After a challenging childhood with her single mom, a hard-working woman who regularly moved or boarded out my mother so that my grandma could go to work, the only thing my mom wanted in life was peace and stability. Peace at any cost means you swallow your feelings and concerns, you hold it in so you don't upset the apple cart. So I grew up in a middle-class, comfortable home with the traditional gender role divisions of labor, never worrying that I would be separated from my parents or wondering where my next meal would come from. But there was a different problem. My dad, introverted and caring, but also quick to anger, was the center of her universe. Peace at any cost. So I was trained to anticipate how he might respond and to act accordingly. It didn't matter what I was feeling in the shadow of what he might feel. I spent my childhood wanting to grow up to be the dad rather than the mom, because being the mom seemed so small and squished, and being the dad seemed so free. As an adult, I can see now that neither one of them was free to be themselves in that scenario. We hear the old saw that men are rational and women are emotional, and this distinction is pure poison. We are all both and more, and these things are indivisible. Women have been characterized as hysterical as a tool to diminish them, to contain them, to discredit their contributions, and to prevent them from holding power. Imagine my shock when I stood up in church that day and spoke the truth of my situation, stood up for women, stood up for low-income people, and let all my messy feelings show in such a public, proper place. The truth of me, and Liz too, is that we are anything but containable or proper. Of course, we can get cleaned up and behave in a formal setting. Sort of. But our core personality styles are a combination of exuberant and messy. One of my big lessons while studying for ministry was that I could never drink at church events, not a single glass. Not because I didn't know my limits or couldn't hold my alcohol. I grew up with 5 brothers and had plenty of experience proving that I could hold my own in a social setting. Rather, it was because I'm a social being, and I'm loud by nature. Big E extrovert, passionate, enthusiastic, and strong-willed. And if you are all of these things, exuberant and messy, you might gesticulate wildly while talking and occasionally knock over a wine glass. Or stumble when you are overcome with laughter while trying to fill a plate and tell a story at the same time. Basically, people think you are drunk. Now, when you're the minister, even in a purely social setting, you are always working. And drunk doesn't exactly come across as professional. So while I have learned to lean into my honest self, to risk letting the world see who I really am, to trust that people's understanding is expansive enough to welcome a large personality as being something more than just an hysterical woman, it is still too precarious to risk enthusiasm being conflated with intoxicated.
I empathize with the drinking thing. This is a real problem for me as well, which is surprising because I never drink. And yet, I will frequently go to a party and I'll go to leave and someone will gently put a hand on my arm and so kindly ask me if I'm sure that I am good to drive. This can be awkward. I have to respond that no, I am in fact stone cold sober and what they are witnessing this is in fact my natural personality. I was not raised to be quiet. I was, in fact, specifically raised to take up space. I remember one year, my sister came home from school crying because her desk didn't fit. I mean, it fit technically, but she wanted to swing her leg and there wasn't enough room for that. And my parents heard her out, and then they spent the evening talking to her about civil disobedience and Henry David Thoreau. Talking about Thoreau was my dad's parenting response to most situations. My sister arrived at school the next morning and politely removed everything from her desk and stacked it on the floor and began working. When asked, she explained that she was on desk strike. Until she was given more appropriate seating, her teacher met this with scorn, and then with frustration, and then with a trip to the principal's office, and eventually he met it with a new desk. And I think of this a lot when I'm in situations where there isn't quite enough room for me. That it is okay to claim space, even when it isn't convenient. It's okay to leave, too, if you need to, but often the most powerful statement is to stay in the room, and also to push back. And when I'm in those situations, I often think of my sister, books spread out on the floor, working alongside her desk. That poor teacher. Sending your kids marching off to school declaring, "Let my life be a counter-friction to stop the machine," is a little unfair to the administration, don't you think? It's not a hit with the teacher. Frankly, it wasn't even a hit with the other students. On Walden Pond, not what the children were reading when I was young. I know from personal experience that Thoreau doesn't go over well in elementary school. Didn't go over well in seminary either. Even UU seminary, which surprised me. Since our tradition is entwined with people like Thoreau so heavily that we sometimes claim he was one of us, you'd think I'd have felt at home there, but I didn't. Words like pedagogy and eschatology make me feel itchy, and every time someone refers to hermeneutics, I would think, does anybody else hear hermeneutics? No, nobody else heard that. They were too mature to hear that. They were there to learn. For me, it was UU Seminary, not my family, that was the place where I learned I was supposed to be tidy and go with the system. Like, I tried to learn that anyways. My mind was like a squirmy and obstinate toddler, always wiggling away from my homework to go hunt fun things. I was forever abandoning the boring but accurate words of the UU Historical Society that I was supposed to be reading. Instead, I would do things like gather the other seminarians together to found the UU Hysterical Society, which we used to play very elaborate and extremely historically specific jokes on each other. At first. Then we discovered memes. Memes, those are the place for the hermeneutics kind of style of thinking. One day, I stopped asking myself why I was such a wrong-sized seminarian, and I started asking myself what kind of right-sized thing I was. One day I decided that I could follow what I loved from both worlds, creating a space for the UU laughter that I craved, and that I would stop trying to fit into the desk and start working alongside it. I decided to stop thinking of the care and love of my growing UU Hysterical Society as goofing off, as the thing I did when I was taking a break from the ministerial formation process that was breaking me. I started thinking of it as my own style of ministry. And I stopped thinking of myself as breaking. The cracks are how the light gets in, and also how the light gets out. Humor matters, because religion isn't just about what you believe. It's not just about the theology or the ideas or the structure or the bylaws. It's definitely not about the bylaws. It's about shared culture. That's why we sing together. That's why we tell each other stories. It's why laughing together is so important. A good joke is a way to share culture. It's a different kind of welcome. And an idea that is intertwined with humor is a message that's easier to pay attention to. It's easier to share with others. It can go places that lectures and academics texts can't go. And it makes space for more types of people, including people like me. A good joke connects us. It allows us to think about things from a new angle. It allows us to approach tricky topics in a new way. A joke is a risk. We try, and sometimes we miss the mark, or we're even hurtful. And working through that is a way to and a way to care for each other. A joke is a way to release tension, too, to connect with each other and just to have a shared breath. It opens us up in a new way. I think that's why they call it cracking up. And I don't think it leads to breaking. I think it leads to hatching.
If you have ever felt or been told that you were too much or not enough, let us dispel that for you right now. The world is beautiful and messy and complicated, and you are absolutely the right-sized thing for your own beautiful, messy, complicated life. We do the silliest things to try to hide our vulnerabilities. When I was a teenager, I would wear jeans to the beach while my friends were all wearing swimsuits and frolicking in the ocean. It took me years to realize that people could already tell that I was fat and that I was roasting on the sand because I believed the story that being fat was shameful, that I didn't have a body that fit the beach. And even as recently as a few years ago, when my knees were disintegrating from arthritis, I was too stubborn to use a cane because using a cane made me feel that same kind of vulnerable again. It made my pain more visible. And again, there was no one who saw me walk and didn't already know that I was suffering. When I accepted my reality and made peace with the necessity, I discovered that using a cane cut my pain in half. In half. Now I just want to carry spare canes and hand them out whenever I see someone struggling. But we know that hatching doesn't work that way. Hatching happens when the conditions are right. And that's one of the gifts of religious community, creating conditions for growth and healing and transformation, creating a supportive nest for hatching. When we try to squeeze ourselves into places or programs or cultures where we don't fit, we end up crushed. We get smaller and smaller, trying to fit in, trying to be invisible, trying not to stand out, or we end up leaving because there was insufficient room for us to bring all that we are. This is the bring all that you are wind-up part of the sermon. Our Unitarian Universalist communities, whether it is our congregations with our Sunday services and all the other activities, or the UU Hysterical Society with its online mirth and dignity, our communities can be places where people thrive when they recognize that all of them is welcome, cracks and all. People have teased me that I'm not happy until somebody is crying. And it's partially true. I mean, I don't need you all to be crying all the time, but I do need to know that the spaces we create together are safe for crying and laughing and cracking and singing, whether you can carry the tune or not. When a place is large enough and gracious enough to hold someone's pain, unexpected ugly cry and all, it reassures others that their pain is also welcome. When a community is brave enough to take on challenging conversations, to risk and learn and change together, then people with marginalized identities or with diverse learning styles might find that there is also safety for them. When a gathering is generous enough to celebrate our joys and laughter, even when we laugh a little too loud or at the wrong spot in the sermon, well, you know. When we make room for the variety of ways of being, when we remember that all people are our people, in all of our beautiful, messy, complicated glory, then we are living into the covenant that makes us Unitarian Universalists. This is the work we are called to do together. May it always be so. Blessed be, and amen.
video really deep and wonderful. Our closing music is by Peter Meyer. He is the song Blue Boat Home is in our blue teal hymnals. And Blue Boat Home, it's number 1064 in Singing the Journey. It's used with permission by the UUA, and they are requesting a pay-as-you-can donation, so we will do that. Afterwards, we'll have coffee and conversation, but I just realized maybe someone would like to come up and talk as well, with some feedback or talk back. So that's certainly doable. So you are invited for the coffee and conversation to make connections. Jake?
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can sing. I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun by sail and moon by rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, reach the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Otherwise, just have some coffee and conversation with each other.
I can give a little talk back since I'm just passing here for one moment, and I'm a UU and I like to talk. Two things, a couple things there. This sort of started by quoting William Ellery Channing, and she's the person that said that this is worth looking into. To me, it's like going to a Christian church and saying, well, I've just discovered this Jesus Christ and it's worth looking into. So if you're UU, you need to know William Ellery Channing, and you need to know Theodore Parker, because you need to know which hat you wear. And I segue this because I'm a member of the Mid-America Regional History and Heritage Society. And one of the projects I coordinated is the series on UU, famous historical UU ministers. It's only been actually done by our congregation, but now we're trying to get the word out to other congregations. It's a free program, and we have about a dozen books, and it's kind of like a book club. Each member takes a book and reports on it, and we expect that to be very good, but it's just hard to get the word out in the UU world. I noticed things have changed there. The other thing is, Thoreau was mentioned today. Well, 2 weeks ago, before I left for West, our congregation put out a play on the cairn at Walden Pond. Has anybody been to the cairn at Walden Pond in Concord, Massachusetts here? That's interesting. Because again, it's history. There's a lady from Dubuque, Mary Newberry Adams from the Universalist congregation, was in Concord in 1872. She was visiting Emerson and Bronson Alcott, who she had entertained in Dubuque when they came west to give their travels. So she was visiting there, and she was staying at Emerson's house, and Alcott came over, and he was going to give her a tour of Concord. And she said she'd like to go out to Walden Pond, so they walked out to Walden Pond, and then to Alcott, she said, well, where did Henry David Thoreau have his hut? This is in June 1872. She said, well, she took him over here and said, well, it was right here. So she went to the pond and put a stone there. There should be some marker. And he thought that was quaint, but he said, well, I'll do that, one for me and one for Abba, my wife. And the Unitarians were having a conference in Walden Pond that day, or that week, actually. And some of the people, young ministers, were having a picnic, and they knew who Bronson Alcott was, but they didn't know who this lady was. But they got the courage saying, well, Mr. Alcott, we know who you are, but we were wondering what you two were doing by putting those rocks there. And he said, well, this lady from Iowa wanted to know where Henry David Thoreau had his hut. And they said, okay. And as they walked away, they looked back, and here was the ministers. You were putting their stones there. So if you go to Concord, the cairn is this high, about 25 feet in diameter. But I'm plugging that also because 2 weeks ago, before my wife and I left for Colorado, our congregation produced a play that I wrote about this incident. So that's going to be free, and that's what I plug. That's available, and the minister series is also free too. Thank you. It's a staged reading on the play, by the way.
That's why we come here.
Why is that?
People come here, we hear things.
Good. Okay.
The unexpected.
Me too.
Anyone else?
Well, I do have something to say. I drove a semi-truck from Denver to Topeka, 580 miles 2 days ago, and I took the scenic route through Eads, Colorado, Highway 96, west of Tribune, and 368 miles from the Colorado line to Topeka. I did not see one vote no sign. Okay. And that tells me that I think 7 counties in Kansas are going to make the difference on this whole thing.
That seems to be the present status quo is urban versus rural.
Yep, very much. Very stark contrast.
It's easier to catch children in urban society.
If there is there other feedback? If not, that concludes our service today. Thank you all.
I just was unexpected about that lighter.
Yeah, well, I should, yeah, well, yeah. It's kind of a handy lighter, but yeah, I tried to light it this morning like this, and maybe get low on fuel. It really puts out a flame. It's a stronger flame when it's probably running out of fuel. It's like it's refillable. I suppose. Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that. I was thinking about, I was like that while you're talking, but I didn't get an answer.